Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners like you to maximize your business value and achieve the exit of your dreams, whatever that means to you. With insights gained from over 100 business transactions, we share real-world strategies, lessons, and expert advice to help you build long-term, sustainable value in your business. Each episode is hosted by one of our Mastery certified partners. They're seasoned experts who've helped countless business owners navigate the complexities of growth, scaling, and building value. They bring first-hand experience, actionable insights, and a passion for helping you build a business that thrives. So let's dive in.
Well, hello, this is Dave Casey, and welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast. So, this is a series of podcasts really dedicated to the business owner that's serious about increasing and maximizing the value of their business over time. So, today I'm excited to reintroduce John Gorbutt, who's been on the podcast before. He's a principal at North Star Mergers and Acquisitions, which is a little different from the last time he was on the podcast. So, John, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. Hopefully, I
Yeah,
can add some value.
there you go. Well, that if you don't, I mean, people will tune out in 2 minutes. So who knows?
Exactly.
So for our viewers, if you could refresh us a little bit about your background and then how you arrived at North Star Mergers and Acquisitions.
Yeah, my background. So, just for the past 40 years, I like to fix things and make them better.
Uh,
So, my background's been in CFO roles and VP of operations, VP of M&A, and all those fit right into what I like to do because it gets me analyzing things, identifying what's positive, what's negative, looking for solutions and implementing them.
wow.
And the implementation's key because once you implement a solution, a lot of times you just uncover more issues and
Yep.
more things that need to
Yep.
be fixed. So um, I've been doing that all this time, and then more recently been doing it more in a consulting role, and then was able to team up with two great partners. They're just awesome, and we formed North Star Mergers and Acquisitions, and that's been it. Kind of pulls all my history together of looking at companies from start to finish, to helping them be a little better, and then helping them achieve that end goal of transitioning and doing other things with their lives.
Oh, that's great.
So it's been wonderful.
Yeah, so recently we had Jeremy, or one of your two partners, was on the podcast, and he went into some detail about how important it is to really have clean financials
Yeah,
when you prepare a company for sale and actually go to put it on the market. That if you don't have that, you just got a couple of strikes against you right out of the box,
yeah,
for sure. And then everybody that's familiar with Mastery knows Tom Bronson and his background. And while Tom is not, I won't say he's a financial analyst, he sure surrounds himself with some smart people to do
yeah.
that because he's got a different vision, but he knows his numbers,
Yes.
which is awesome. And
Yeah.
it's rare to find a visionary person that knows his numbers, and so that's always cool.
Yeah, and willing to get into them and able to talk through them
Yeah,
with
yeah,
owners and buyers. So
yeah. And that's
yeah,
gosh, that's so
it's
important.
awesome.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Well, and again, we've explained in the past a few times about the three companies under the Mastery umbrella. So there's a Business Transition Summit, Mastery Partners, which is this podcast is part of, and then of course North Star Mergers and Acquisitions is the newest company. So when did you
Yeah.
guys get off the ground with North Star?
Joyce, it's been little over a year.
Wow.
And we probably worked
Yeah.
6 months or longer, probably longer,
Yeah.
preparing to
Getting ready to go. Yeah.
start, to how can we do this and what's our end goal and what are we trying to build and how can we help people and how can we be better than other people out there in the market?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we definitely feel we provide a service beyond what most people provide. And we get a lot of good reviews for that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I've seen that kind of looking not exactly all the way on the outside, but with the sister
Yeah.
company, but watching the way that North Star has been regarded since launch has been really exciting, and
Yeah.
actually watching companies go through the process and be so grateful on the other side of it. So
And it's interesting. I mean, everyone's new, but everyone's the same.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's kind of an odd way
yeah,
to say it, but they all, we all follow through the same process, but there's something unique and we pick up new things all the time to add to our toolbox to
yeah,
help
yeah.
people. So it's
So
been great.
one of the things that we're going to cover today, or we'd like to anyway, is a part of the process that you're intimately involved with, and that's the whole aspect of due diligence. And
Yeah.
so I went through that. It's been a little while in the rearview mirror now. About a dozen years ago is when I sold my company, and I'd always heard the term due diligence, and I'd always had a idea in my mind what it was about. And I had a wonderful advisor through the transaction that David Hammer,
Yeah.
and he helped me through that whole process. But due diligence is not the same for everyone. But how I know there's a formal term, but what do you consider due diligence, and how do you all go about it? So
Well, it's like the dreaded due diligence and
yeah, it usually has an adjective in front of it. Yeah,
yeah.
I will say that.
And for somewhat good reason. I mean, it's a deep dive into all areas of the company, all aspects of the company. You go in and analyze all the accounting side, all the operational side, the sales side, HR, compliance. So every facet of the business from start to finish. Um, and I used to do this for a publicly traded company. And when I would do it for them and go and look at a deal, I would come in with a due diligence list that had over 200 items on it.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so
That's
it would
digging.
take, you know, months to go in and sit down and
Yeah.
get owners to pull all that information and review it and then translate what it meant to us as a buyer, as a publicly traded company. So the diligence not only digs into and to understand how everything is put together and all the parts and the pieces, which is what I love to do. But it also looks at, okay, how's this going to work going forward? Where are the flaws for a buyer or where are the skeletons from the history?
Yeah.
So it's not for the weak at heart. And it definitely should be used with an advisor, a team.
Yeah, and that struck me, even as, I won't say trivial, but I mean, my transaction was not a huge one and not particularly complex. But certainly there were things that information that I had to find and produce and or questions I had to answer that I hadn't anticipated. And there were others that just seemed that, well, it doesn't everybody, have this information and operate this way. And David
Yeah.
assured me that no, not everybody operates that way. So
No.
it was very, I will say it's an arduous process, and it seemed to be never ending for a
Yeah.
long time there.
And
Uh,
it's very eye-opening because typically it's going way deeper than an owner needs to be on a daily basis, but
yeah,
he or she also needs to have the processes in place so that they don't have to be looking at that on a daily basis, or when due diligence comes around, we uncover it.
yeah, yeah. And,
So
and it's interesting because, yeah, as you say, and we run into this a lot with Mastery Partners when we consult with people. a lot of the questions that we ask and the things that we work on with the business owner are not things that they've had to deal with day to day. I mean, it hasn't, they felt like, well, we founded the business, we've been growing the business, it's rocking along. Why do you ask that? And
Yeah.
why do we care? And I
As long
have
as
to,
there's money in the bank, everything's
yeah.
good.
So, and a lot of times it's like, this may not be germane to you actually running your business or even being to your bottom line profit or anything like that
Yeah.
at this moment in time. But this is a question, or this is an area that a prospective buyer needs to know to make a wise or an informed business decision on buying
Yeah.
your company. And you need to know it ultimately just to ensure that you've got a strong company and all those. There's no fluff in there that I found in due diligence. There's no.
No, I mean, an off example is, just ownership. You would think day to day, you know what your ownership is. But I did a company once and they had three partners and they paid off one partner and did an agreement and he'd been gone for years. But at the end of the day, when we did our diligence, that guy was still a partner. They'd never
Really?
removed him
Oh,
formally.
oh,
So they're like, well, we have this agreement. I'm like, well, did he sign it? Oh, no, he had never signed it. We haven't paid him anything for years. He hasn't had any involvement. But now
wow.
you got to go get a signed document and suddenly you got to tell him why. And
Yeah.
they ended up paying him again
Oh
some extra
no.
money
Oh
because they're like, oh, we
no.
want to sell the business. Oh, how much?
Yeah.
So
It's
had
like
they,
having a mechanic's lien on your house
yeah,
or something, and you go to try to sell it.
yeah. And so you suddenly, they had a big expense, but
Wow.
it's something they every day never thought about.
Yeah. Yeah.
They sold the business, but they didn't make as much as they thought. They
Yeah.
lost a
Yeah.
third.
They left some money
Um,
on the table for sure. Wow.
yeah. So it's
So the
crazy things
200
like
and some odd items that you dig into due diligence. Well, first of all, is there kind of a universal list of due diligence items that both buyers and sellers, work from that, that these
yeah,
are
there
minimum
is.
questions we're going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some universal lists out there that tend to be the basis of most, and then there's things you add on depending upon the type of business and the product they have, or if it's all service related,
Yeah.
or that type, or if it's highly regulated, um, or dealing, with the government and billing situations for healthcare. So there's a lot of unique things that go along, but there are probably the standard items that go through, and we focus on those standard items and have found that with the additional things that we add in, we uncover what we need to
Yeah.
uncover, or we identify areas where we got to go deeper.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
different with every deal.
Is there I'll ask two questions in one here, I guess. Are there things that you pretty much uncover every single time in due diligence that no one seems to do right? And then the second one is, what's the most challenging, I guess the most challenging aspect of performing due diligence? Because you're doing it, let's say that we've got a client that's going to be selling their company. You take them through due diligence to try to get all this information, have it readily
Yes,
at hand.
we do.
But the buyer is also doing a due diligence process as well. Is that the way
Yeah,
it
we
works?
take them through kind of a double stage due diligence in that uh, we do a dive in to understand the business so we can create a valuation.
Hmm.
So we have to make sure what we're building a valuation on is sound
Yeah.
and repeatable, and somebody's not going to poke holes in it.
If there's any gremlins in there, you're going to uncover them. Yeah.
Yes, that's our hope because
Yeah.
I only like surprises on my birthday and Christmas. My birthday is February 8th, just in case
Oh, just
anybody
in
wants to
case
send
anybody's
something.
looking to surprise you, that'd be a good
Yeah.
day.
But the thing I run into the most is, which is what it's all about, is getting information.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the hardest because so many times um, either the system has limitations in what it can produce, or they have three different systems, and
Yeah.
you've got to pull from various places, and nobody regularly does that. Um,
Hmm.
or if you're only work, you got limited access to people.
Yeah.
So sometimes just an owner wants to try to do it, and it's again doesn't work. You
Yeah.
need a team so you can get access. Um, there's times in the past I've done due diligence where I'd actually go on site and talk to people, but you'd have to do it as a bank auditor or an
Yes. Yeah.
IRS auditor and ask questions in a different format to get all your answers. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that getting access is key because without the access, without getting the information, now you get delays. And then buyers get concerns or, well, why can't they answer this? And
Yeah.
is there something? So then they ask more questions.
Yep.
So, and that all just leads to either adjusted price or killing a deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people can't get, what they need.
Yeah, and it's certainly as a business owner and CEO, when I had my business, I have a business degree, so I figured I know a little bit about business, but as you know, you don't learn all that much in college. You just
Yeah.
maybe learn some of the terminology. But it was very interesting as we went through the process. The buyer had given us a list of things that they were looking for, and that was just the start. And then they started, an email would show up. We would like to look at this. We'd like to look at that. Um, and I remember getting an email one day, and I said, I have no clue what they're asking for here. So I called David, and he said, "Oh, they're asking for that, but that's just like a standard question. There's no hurry in getting that information back to them. They're not, they don't need that info. They'll need it at some point. They don't need it now." And then, like a day later, another very similar sounding question shows up, and that I didn't have the answers readily for. And I quiz him, and he goes, "Oh, man, they need that data now. You need to find that, and you need to get it to them as quick as you can.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, let's get the CPA on the horn. I mean, we need to do this right now." And it sounded to me like exactly the same question, right?
Yeah.
So that led me to say, don't try to ever do this on your own. You really need professionals on your team before you
Yeah.
even for the smallest of transactions. I think you need professional help.
Well, and we find that depending upon the size of the transaction and the buyer, they'll outsource their diligence to a legal firm, to a tax firm, to an accounting firm. And
Interesting.
normally those like three or four people never talk to each other. So you get some of the same questions asked
Yeah, yeah.
ways multiple times. But they're using a lot of resources.
Mhm.
So it's hard for you to keep up with that. We try to anticipate a lot of that with as we go through and do some of our valuation work, and then later when we go to put a business on the market, we do what we call a packaging questionnaire, which is like a mini due diligence
Yep.
that goes through and looks for a lot of this information. We use that to market them, but we also use all that information and the valuation stuff we built to answer due diligence so that when they start asking, we can respond quickly.
Yeah, and it would seem to
Answers quick.
me, and I've seen a couple of the packages that North Star's put together, is that um, by sharing a whole bunch of information on the front end in a very organized fashion, um, you may answer quite a few questions the buyer's team has, but
Yeah.
also you build I would say, a level of credibility that, wow, these people are prepared.
Yep.
Answers are here. Even if there's one we don't see the answer to right now, we've got a good feeling that that would be no problem for them to produce that. And
Yeah.
so you kind of, rather than everything be secretive, you've built a very clear picture for them. And I know Tom
Yeah.
has mentioned two or three times that one of the goals of that is to get people to say, "No, I'm not really interested," as early on
Mhm.
in the process as possible. So,
Yeah.
because there will be
It's
people that don't really understand and they need to learn more. There's other people that love kicking tires, I think, and then
Yeah.
there's other people that are serious. I want a quick look at this. Oh, this quick look has told me I need to look further, and so you want to get that person.
Yeah, he always says we like to get to a no quickly. Him
Yeah,
and Jeremy always
yeah,
say, like to get to a no quickly. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. We want a yes. But we want those people that aren't really in it
yep,
and
yeah,
to find that out quickly and figure out this is not for them.
yeah,
Um, and we want to be an open book and air. Here's
yeah,
our skeletons.
yeah,
Here's what we've done to fix that, or here's something that we learned you got to stay away from.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you show the bad, but explain the bad
Sure,
so
sure.
that because otherwise people find it happens all the time when auditors come in and they do an audit sample, they always pull somehow, the 3 or 4 things that are the things you never want them to pull.
Yeah, yeah,
And so they've got that, little ESP or something,
yeah.
but
The better they are at it, probably the trickier it is.
yeah,
I
the more it
remember
comes up.
I had a friend. There's a TV show that's on right now called Landman,
Hmm.
which is I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and they said it's a Taylor Sheridan deal. He's really good. Did Yellowstone, do all these,
Yeah.
and they said it's a very entertaining show. The guy is not doing what a landman does in the oil and gas world. But I had a friend that was a landman, so he actually went out and secured leases and for oil and gas properties, and he had they were an independent business. They contracted with big oil companies, and they were audited pretty often
Yeah.
because I guess because of the nature of being in oil and gas. But and so I remember talking to him, and we had been scheduled for our very first IRS audit. We've been in business like 15 years, had never had an IRS audit. And he says, well, there's two schools of thought. He says, but here's what we do. And he said, we have all of our records. We have it all electronically. It's on our systems and all that. We also have paper backup for all that. So he said, they said we're going to be sending an auditor out. He said, awesome. So they took box after box after box of paper and put it in the corner conference room. And they said, here's all of our stuff. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to help, but everything's here, and the auditor's shaking their head. Okay. And then he said it was the corner conference room that faced west. It was in the middle of summer. So by mid-afternoon, it's about 95 degrees in that corner conference room. And many of the files, if you open the file right away on the first 2 or 3 pages of the file, there was something that was off.
Yeah.
So they said we want them to dig in and find a few things like right away.
Yeah.
But we really don't want to make it too comfortable for them to be here. So we really want them to find those 2 or 3 things and say, I got something here to work with, and now go back and we're done
There's,
here.
there's
So
still a lot of those paper files out there, but that's the bad part. More and more, they're like, provide this totally in electronic, and I want it
yeah,
in
like
this electronic format.
yeah.
And
And that still happens. We had a client last year that I said, we need the last 3 years of tax returns, and I got this ream of paper from
yeah,
them. And I
oh
said,
yeah,
oh,
all too
thanks.
often.
So, so what stands out to you as that keeps coming up as the most challenging thing about doing due diligence, is if there's any common thread, that goes across.
I think I don't know if there's one, but we see a lot when you start digging into people and looking at margin
Mm,
that people owners don't always understand the margin they make by customer and by product than
mm,
customers. They they see an overall margin, but
yeah,
it might be spent on a lot of their efforts and a lot of their sales time on low margin items.
yep.
Um, because
Interesting.
they don't, most of the time, they don't have systems because nobody wants to invest in a system.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
expensive. Yeah,
they take a lot of time, and
yeah,
North Star, we know that because we've built a system around our processes, and it's taken a lot of time to get that system in place.
Yeah.
And we're still working on tweaking and
Sure.
documenting.
So yes, so that margin by product or by customer or by region or however they want to
Yeah,
look at it. And I
nobody
would say
wants to
I've been
see.
guilty of that when I had just personal experience when I had my business. I mean, we were in the IT services business, but we had a combination of products and services. And,
Yeah,
we had some longtime clients that had spent a lot of money with us over the years. But when we started doing margin analysis, they were actually some of our most or least margin
yeah,
clients. They had decent volume that we were doing with them, but they were needy, and we
yeah,
made them needy. We didn't manage them correctly. We didn't
yeah.
manage expectations,
And
and
that shows up a lot just um, because a buyer's going to come in and say, well, what do you do for this? And what do they expect? And how do they get whatever this term is? And they're going to start questioning. Um,
yeah,
a lot of times owners take offense when you start questioning how they've done things. And it's not that you're necessarily saying it's wrong. You're just saying, I need to understand that because
yeah.
that's not what I'm used to, from where
Well,
you're at.
and I think we did also, and that we learned this, incorrectly, but we learned it from our manufacturing partners that we were representing big companies like
Yeah,
Microsoft and Dell and Cisco and big guys, and they're chasing logos. They want, we want the Pepsi account, we want American Airlines or whatever. They're chasing logos, so they taught us to do that. So you need to
yeah,
be chasing a logo and winning these logos. Well, those big guys are very, very good at purchasing. So they're very, very good at reducing our margin to the bare bones, right?
yeah.
So it's great to have Pepsi as a logo, that you can feature. But I think behind the scenes, that's probably our lowest margin, client that we're going to have, right? So
Well, and that ties in very well, very good lead in to my other thing, and that is concentration.
yeah,
You know, people look at, I got this big account, it's bringing on all this stuff, but as an owner, and you've got maybe this long-term relationship that you feel comfortable with that, but if that one account leaves, what does that do to your business?
exactly.
And when people say, "Oh, I got a contract," well, contracts aren't that hard to break anymore, it
Yeah.
seems like, and they don't mean it as much as they
The
used
next
to.
guy will have a contract too.
Exactly. And the owners have these long friendships, and maybe
Yeah,
they've hunted, maybe they've done things together. Well, the new guys step in,
sure.
and typically, we have owners we ask to transition the business and introduce and show the value in this new place, but it still might not be that same relationship. So heavy concentrations bite you in two ways. Sometimes
Yeah,
that drives your margin down, and the other flip side is you got too much volume in one place.
yeah,
So
yeah.
those both get to be a negative against you.
Yep. So that's one to watch out for, I think. And
Yeah.
then and probably one that business owners don't think about as much because that, I've always had this relationship. Why would that go away? Not thinking of the fact that maybe part of that relationship is because of them. And if they
Yes.
sell the company and go away, then and certainly the buyer's keen to that, I would imagine, and to say, okay, who owns that relationship with the big client?
Yeah.
Is that you? Is that a frontline salesperson? Is that a team of people on your side? I mean,
And that tends to be a more and more popular question that I see
yeah,
is not just what are your sales, but you know, who's managing those
yeah,
sales? How much of it do you, Mr. Owner, Mrs. Owner, how much do you call on and reach out and reach contact? So
Thank you for tuning in to the Maximize Business Value podcast. This episode is the first of a two-part release. Part 2 will be posted next week.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Maximize Business Value podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas on how you can continue driving value in your business. But remember, it's not just about listening. It's about taking massive action. Visit our website, masterypartners.com, for more resources. Grab a copy of any of the books in the Maximize Business Value series on Amazon or via the links below. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know how to apply these concepts to your business. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to relentlessly execute while you maximize business value.